So the New York State Attorney General's office is claiming that they have caught the NRA and high-ranking officials with their hands in the cookie jar. Let's talk about it. But real quick before we jump this video, if you think that any law which restricts our gun rights is a violation of the Second Amendment, go ahead and hit that like button. Also, thank you to USCCA. USCCA is a main supporter of this channel. They provide legal protection for patriots like me and you. So if you think you would like some sort of legal protection for your carry firearm, for self-defense situations, stuff like that, you can click the link found in the comment section. So as of today, the New York State Attorney General's office filed a lawsuit essentially against the NRA in New York, claiming that after an 18-month investigation, there is evidence that high-ranking officials within the NRA, executive positions, have been caught misusing funds, misusing and allocating funds, taking funds that they aren't supposed to be using and using them in inappropriate ways. And based on this, the New York State Attorney General's office has filed a lawsuit against the NRA and is essentially seeking to dissolve the NRA. According to the Attorney General's office, they claim that after this 18-month investigation, they have found evidence of fraud and abuse and misuse of funds. And they are claiming that within just a 3-month period that over $64 million have been misused and are associated with fraud and abuse by these high-ranking officials within the NRA. So the main executives that are tied with this lawsuit against the NRA and the lawsuit to dissolve the NRA and to remove these high-ranking executive officials, these executive officials are the Executive VP, Wayne LaPierre, General Counsel, John Fraser, the former CFO, Woody Phillips, and former Chief of Staff, Joshua Powell. So these are the 4 high-ranking officials within the NRA who are claimed to have misused charitable funds for their own personal gain. This lawsuit by the New York State Attorney General's office is not only to dissolve the NRA, which is probably the most severe thing that they can do, is try to dissolve this nonprofit organization which has been organized within the New York State, but also there are actions expressly against these 4 ranking officials. One of them is for the return of all of the misused funds, but the other is to not only remove them from the board of the NRA, but also to prohibit them from being able to serve on any other board within an organization organized within the New York State. So let's take a look at some of these allegations. Against Wayne LaPierre, the allegations is that not only has he just used the charitable funds for his own personal gain, but also that he has awarded contracts to other individuals. One of them stated to be a $17 million contract to another individual without express board approval. So he has gone outside of board approval and just awarded someone a $17 million contract. There's other allegations within the lawsuit claiming that there was $1.2 million in expenses to gifts towards friends, travel expenses, golf club memberships, hotels, and this was all accruing over just a 4-year period. So this isn't even over the 30-year period that Wayne LaPierre has been with the NRA. This is just over a 4-year period, according to this lawsuit. There's also claims that Wayne LaPierre has used hundreds of thousands of dollars for private jets, not just for himself, but also private jets for family members and friends when he was not even there to use the private jets. So the claim is that he was using charitable funds for private jets, not even for the NRA business or anything like that, but just for friends and family. There's also allegations within the lawsuit that Wayne LaPierre used over $3.6 million over a 2-year period for black car services and travel consultations. So he's using $3.6 million for travel expenses and a black car service. The allegations against the CFO, Woody Phillips, include that he lied on financial disclosures that were supposed to go to the New York State, that he set up a $1.8 million contract for himself when he was actually leaving the NRA. So he set up, allegedly, a contract for himself where he would be an outside consultant to help a treasurer get up to speed when that individual came in, and that contract was set up before he even left. So he pretty much benefited himself by setting up this $1.8 million contract. There's also another allegation against Woody Phillips that he set up a $1 million contract for his girlfriend to work with the NRA in some capacity. So as you can see, these are pretty serious allegations against these individuals, and it's pretty much that they are lining their own pockets and that they are using the charitable funds as their own personal piggy bank. Now, the reason why the New York State Attorney General's office is able to actually seek that the NRA be dissolved is because that is an authority that the Attorney General's office and the Attorney General in the New York State has over an organization which was formed within the state of New York. So since the NRA was originally formed and is actually, I believe, organized within the New York State, this Attorney General has that authority to seek an approval by the court. So the NRA responded, and what they said is that this was a baseless, premeditated attack on our organization and the Second Amendment freedoms it fights to defend. You could have set your watch by it. The investigation was going to reach its crescendo as we move into the 2020 election cycle. Its transparent attempt to score political points and attack the leading voice in opposition to the leftist agenda. This has been a power grab by political opportunists, a desperate move that is part of a rank political vendetta. Our members won't be intimidated or bullied in their defense of political and constitutional freedoms. So as you would expect, the NRA is pretty much saying that this is a baseless claim and baseless allegations against the NRA and these officials. So what are my takeaways from this? I think one, this could be purely political. We don't know. It all comes down to how factually true this investigation is. The New York State is saying that this was an 18-month investigation and that they have all this factual evidence of this misuse of funds and abuse of funds, stuff like that. So if there is any basis to that, it is very bad for the NRA and it's very bad for these individuals. But this could be purely political because, as you are all aware, in November, we are entering into a presidential election, and the NRA is a big moving party and a big advocate and a big funder for conservatives, for Republicans, and especially for, people like me and probably you who tend to vote maybe on single issues like the Second Amendment, like gun rights, stuff like that. So the NRA has a lot of influence on the election cycle and on politics in general. So this could be a way to try to discredit them going into the election cycle. But this also could just point to some rumblings we've had within the gun community over the last few years. A lot of people over the last few years have actually become disillusioned with the NRA and have actually canceled their memberships with the NRA because they believe that the NRA is no longer really fighting for our Second Amendment rights and that they have actually been bending on a lot of these Second Amendment issues as of late. And a lot of people have had major issues with these high-ranking officials within NRA because they think that they're really not doing anything for us and that they probably were just taking their high salaries, misusing funds, and pretty much didn't care about really what their organization is meant and was organized to do. Now, if all of this ended up being true, if we found out that the NRA was misusing funds and that these high-ranking officials were misusing funds, would I want the NRA to be dissolved like the New York State Attorney General's office is trying to do? Would I want these individuals removed? What really would I want out of something like this? Well, me personally, I would not want the NRA to be dissolved. I don't think that the NRA should be dissolved because of the improprieties of higher-ranking officials. What I do agree with is that if this ended up being true, which we are not sure of, this is all just allegations at this point, but if those individuals really were lining their pockets and misusing funds, I do agree that they should be removed and should not be allowed to take part in this organization or any other organization going forward. But I would not want the NRA to be dissolved because I think that a lot of the issues that people and I have had with the NRA in the past has to do with just the higher ups and kind of the ethos of how the NRA has been operating as of late. And I think if maybe you remove those high-ranking officials and then put in people who actually are advocating for the Second Amendment and really have the Second Amendment in mind, the large charitable donations of the NRA and the massive influence that the NRA has can get a lot done for the Second Amendment if we have the right people in place. But that's just me. You might have a different opinion. You might have a different opinion on all this. So go ahead and write down below in the comment section whatever your opinion is on this, whether you think that maybe these individuals really were lining their pockets, what's your opinion of the NRA? Do you think the NRA should be dissolved, or do you think that this is all just election cycle nonsense and the traditional attack on the NRA and trying to discredit the NRA because of the influence they have on the election cycle? So if you like this video and you'd like to support the channel, one of the main ways you can do that is joining the Patreon, and I'll put a link down below to the Patreon page. And also just like, commenting, and subscribing, and also hitting that notification bell really helps the channel. So as always, thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.